Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling the meeting in order. This is the MPO, the Laredo Urban Transportation.
Yes, sir.
Today is February the 18th, 2020, and it's 1:45 p.m. We're meeting here at City Council at Council Chambers at 1110 Houston Street, and here in Laredo, Texas. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pete Science,
President.
Webb County Judge Tano E. Tijerina,
Present.
Councilmember Norma Nelly Vierma,
Here.
Councilmember Dr. Marta Martinez,
Here.
Councilmember George Alcott, County Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez, County Commissioner John Galo, and TxDOT District Engineer David M. Salazar.
I'm sorry, I'm president.
Okay, we have a quorum?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
we have five. Okay, then moving on to item 3, citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to speak publicly, please approach the lectern. I see no one approaching, so I presume no one wants to speak. So moving on. I was going to ask, since the RMA has a special report and we usually ask them to speak at the end, maybe we could bring it up.
Motion to move up that item, sir?
And it's 5,
Second.
Roman numeral 5E, status report by Regional Mobility Authority, RMA. And there's a motion, a second?
Yes.
A second by Judge Tijerina. A discussion, none heard, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none heard, motion carries. The item is on for discussion. Yes, please, RMA.
Afternoon.
Welcome.
Antonio Rodriguez for the record, representing the Webb County City of Laredo RMA. I'm their general engineering consultant. Today, we're going to give you, number one, our status report for the RMA and what we've been doing the last month or so. Well, we're also going to give you a presentation of the draft implementation plan of the North Laredo Webb County Transportation Plan Study. If this body remembers, back in May of 2018, motion was passed by the MPO to provide funding for this planning study for this region. The planning study itself, if you all recall, basically spans from north of I-69 west to State Highway 255, bounded on the west side by the Rio Grande I-35. And the purpose of the planning study is basically to look at the current congestion level, number one, and determine ways to get ahead of that congestion level currently and also over the next 20 years. So the implementation plan, the draft version, actually was distributed to members of the MPO Policy Committee for y'all's review and possible comment. That's where we're at right now, is just looking to take in comments. And ultimately, by any kind of comment and take we get from y'all, we would look to finalize that implementation plan. So today, to actually make the presentation on our behalf is my colleague, Jason Rodriguez. I believe you got a PowerPoint to provide that. So I'm gonna pass that over to you.
Welcome, Mr. Rodriguez. Yes, sir, go ahead, please.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to ask, I know you all got a new chairperson, so has it been seated? Have you all had meetings with the new chairperson?
Yes, sir, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown, Jet Brown, actually came on board back in December, and he has successfully led 2 board meetings at that time. We had a board meeting in December of 2019, and we just recently had one on the 7th of February.
Okay.
May I, is he half-time, part-time? I mean, so when are we gonna start seeing him?
Well, as a chairman, he's been very active, definitely puts in forward a lot of his time. But of course, he also has a full-time position for his business. He was hoping to make it today, but unfortunately, other business matters took him away. So we can definitely try to see maybe the next board meeting.
They sent Doug, that's good.
Yes, sir. But yes, but Judge and actually, plus, yes, he's full-time committed to the RMA.
Well, thank
And they're
you.
responsive to all communications.
One of what you could do is just go ahead and present.
I can do that, yeah? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and.
Are we having issues with
We are having some, but, as was recommended, I can really kind of just walk it, oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Members of the board, I'm happy to be here. Again, my name is Jason Rodriguez, also representing the RMA. I'm gonna just walk you through a few slides to kind of give you sort of the high-level overview of the study. The study, of course, as Tony mentioned, is in the area that is between I-35, the border I-69 West, and Texas 255. One thing I'd like to point out is while the study does focus on this study area, we were cognizant that there are other priorities throughout Laredo and Webb County that are even critical for this area to continue to grow and thrive. So there are other options, obviously, that will have to be considered, but we are prepared to show you the implementation plan that we've come up with for this particular study area. So this draft is out now. We're taking comments through the end of the week, quite possibly into next week as well. And then, like Tony mentioned, we'll be finalizing that draft. So just a couple of sort of highlights. One thing that we did notice from very early on, speaking with several stakeholders, we had a 3-day sort of series, in fact, of meetings. We met with many of you in September, mid-September, both public sector, private sector stakeholders, and then on November 6th, we had a public meeting that had about 65 attendees, and we're able to get a lot of comments that really did sort of support what a priority network, what are the priority improvements that need to be made. The data also supports that as well. So what you see on this map here, one thing that's probably very apparent to everybody is that Killam Industrial and Mines Road, they're essentially the main roads in and out of the area. We identified Milo Sada and Riverbank as very important sort of secondary roads. And then the green dotted lines, that's really what was identified as this is the next step. Vallecillo Road, Hachar Parkway, Aquero Boulevard, which is an alternate route to Mines Road, primarily or presumably would be for residents in the area primarily. These were all identified as important pieces. Certainly crossing 35 was another thing that we heard that we definitely made a priority. So to kind of just explain, the study kind of started off with wanting to look at what do we do with the congestion on Mines Road specifically. And so what we've done is sort of taken a step back and look at the entire supporting network. What you see here, this graphic is showing that sort of red band is about a 300-foot right-of-way and sort of what would be required to convert Mines Road to a freeway. Now, by the end of this report, we don't say don't do that, but we say you do need to have these other sort of alternate routes in place to help support that freeway to function properly once it's built. Also to support continued business while it's being built. So while it's being built, it'll be pretty disruptive. And that's where the priorities sort of come in. Do these projects first, and then we'll get to the point where we are prepared to make that expansion. So overall, we looked at about 48 capital projects that are packaged into 24 packages. And what you're seeing here, the green lines are sort of those priorities I just discussed. The blue ones, that's in the midterm. These are obviously also priorities, but they require a little bit more development. So their delivery year would be later in the 20s. And then the lines you see in red there are longer term. It's more like a framework to say, we need to make sure that we have circulation in the network overall. These priorities, quite frankly, will probably be revisited as the area continues to get studied in context with the entire region. What we did come up with are planning level cost estimates. Now, one thing I should point out with these cost estimates, these are fiscal year 2019 dollars. They're using material costs from TxDOT and the city of Laredo to actually get to what these costs were, depending on what the project was. So what we'll probably end up doing is inflating the costs in the out years to account for inflation. One thing I should say is very important is that as these projects get developed further and there's more detail known about them, these costs will change. So this is the very first shot to kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at in terms of investment. And there you can see in the short term, we actually have about 3 of those projects that are either fully funded or partially funded that would be moving forward. And then you have the schedule there on the right. Again, very important to reiterate, as I'm sure all of you know, there are additional priorities across the region that this would have to be then folded into.
Excuse me real quick, so the highlighted area for your short term, are those already funded or non-funded?
There's, so the capacity upgrades there at the top, I believe that's, if not completely, almost completely funded. And then as far as we know, when the study was developed, Hachar and Vallecillo, I know Vallecillo for sure has some funding still yet to be filled in. Hachar, I believe, is in a similar situation, although, you know, maybe it's up.
So highlighted area would be partially funded.
I would say that's, yes, that's a safe way to put that, yes.
Okay.
Why is I'm sorry. Why is Vallecillo so expensive? You have a Char Parkway for 53 million. In Vallecillo, I know it started at, I think it was guesstimated to be 12 at the beginning, now we're at 31 and a half.
Well, Commissioner, yes, I believe you're correct as far as what the original estimate was. Actually, the RMA actually did not develop that original estimate. That was an estimate that was proposed by other parties. With the work that the RMA has done, where we've developed a schematic and we've developed a full-blown cost estimate and geometry, that's the estimate that we're currently working with. And the estimate that you see right there, the 31.471, that's total project costs. So that includes, of course, not just construction. It talks about design. It talks about environmental clearance, construction management. It's the total finished key delivery.
And what is the Char?
Was that?
What is it, the number on the Char?
The number of a char, I believe that's the number that we got from the last.
What I'm saying, is that not turnkey?
I'm not familiar with the chart, other than the information that's presented to this policy committee, and those numbers reflect that. I couldn't really.
Didn't you all just, you only borrowed like 36 million for a Char, no?
For a chart?
SIB loan?
No, yeah, we're not using SIP loans, we're using some category type
Seven.
fund.
Category
Yeah.
seven.
For future years.
It's category
Yeah.
7. It's got 7.
Right, yeah.
Got changed around.
So going back to Commissioner Galo's comment, so you're saying that Vallecillo, the 31 million is not your number,
It
but
is.
it's plugged in here.
No, it
so
is
I-
their number.
It's the total number, total project cost. Construction cost is actually about 26 million, if that's what y'all really wanted to know. And what is that number based on? It's based on reinforced concrete, continuous reinforced concrete pavement, about 13 inches.
Well, isn't that what a Char is? I'm just,
No, I don't think a char is.
I thought a Char was supposed to be overweight.
It's overweight but not concrete. I think this road is
No,
completely concrete.
the Kachat is concrete.
Concrete also?
Yeah, it's to handle that. And
Now-
you can confirm that, but I'm almost sure it's concrete, it's
The last item I saw.
overload, yeah.
Yeah.
Or-
Now, the thing with the VICU, the.
You have a lot of bridges, or?
No, but it's continuously reinforced concrete pavement. It's 5 lanes, 2.3 miles. It's got sidewalks,
How many miles?
2 3/4 of a mile.
So going
And a
back.
Char is the same thing, in 5 lanes?
Exactly.
Actually, I think Hachar is longer.
Yeah, I'm saying longer.
Yeah, which, if there's something that costs, that's why it's higher.
That's only 20 million versus I guess what we're trying to see is, I mean, it literally jumped from 12, 13 million our first time talking about it to 31, so it's a
Well, I mean-
substantial.
Again, it's not our project, but I
The,
just,
well, the number itself, we've been talking about it for 4 years, this number here.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, we need to move on, so, there's an issue, there's a question there on that number, so, keep that in mind.
Well, it should be noted as well, Judge, Commissioner, Policy Committee, the RMA just passed, is gonna start work on a geotechnical study for Vicio Road, as well as a traffic study. So they're gonna, the attempt is to refine the actual pavement section for this facility. So from that perspective, we could see that number actually drop a little bit.
like, it's really the important question is, that was an RMA project at the beginning. Is it still an RMA project?
Yes, sir.
Because here we got everything put together.
Yes, it's still considered the RMA's priority. And the RMA is continuing to work with their partners, including the city of Laredo, and actually the local landowner, the Killings. They are committed to dedicating 150 feet of right-of-way. In addition, also, pending agreements with the city of Laredo and with the Texas Department of Transportation, a financial component to construction costs as well. And we can talk about that a little bit later after Jason gets here done with his presentation. But for Vicio Road, yes, it is still a priority project for the RMA, and they are still leading it.
How does this correspond to the exit numbers of the World Trade Bridge? Because ultimately, we're thinking that once we do these improvements, that we may not need as many lanes to construct for the expansion of the World Trade Bridge, or,
Well, I'm kind of tripping over Jason's
Okay.
presentation, but that's fine.
no, or,
What
are you gonna touch on it? We can, we can wait for that
What we
portion
kind
of
of heard about from discussions with CDP and GSA, World Trade's actually at full capacity within 10 years. And what Jason's is presenting here is that that's great, but this needs to be in place to receive that traffic coming in. So ultimately, if expansion of World Trade is to move forward, this needs to get done as well.
But does this answer the expansion? Do we need the expansion? That's really the question now.
That is a question for the consultant leading the expansion effort.
Okay,
Because I believe they're going to do a traffic study as part of their overall effort.
okay, and he, obviously would incorporate this information with his study as well. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Yes, go ahead, please.
Just a couple more that we can get through here. Another important component that we wanted to point out is from a multimodal perspective, having options for people who do ride bikes, who do walk and use the bus. Actually, Route 17 that serves this area is the fourth most productive route in the system. I mean, there's demand out there potentially for more. So what you see here is anything that's in red or blue would actually have sidewalks. And so some of the projects are just take the existing road, leave it alone, but let's add sidewalks. And others, it's like, well, this is a new road, so let's make sure that it
35 is gonna have
has
sidewalks?
I'm sorry?
35 is gonna have sidewalks?
No, sir. Actually, and I see how that's kind of like pink and red there. It's a little confusing there, but in this case, it would just
The
be
dotted red line.
Yes, sir. That's right. And the blue lines. The blue line is just sidewalk. The red line actually has bike facility, which is expressed by either a 10-foot sidewalk or bike lanes. So that way you can, it doesn't need to be a dedicated bike facility within the pavement. Sort of thing, but this is definitely, I mean, there are people walking out there, there are people riding out there, and so this would be another layer to make sure that everybody's safety is ensured.
So something similar to what Loop 20 is by TAMU or what?
In some of these cases, yes, maybe on the section that we proposed for Arquero Boulevard, for example, would be similar to that. Yeah.
I don't see anything on Chad Parkway, so we're not doing sidewalks or?
We did not have the complete information. If that's there, we can change. We can
Sidewalks and
change
trucks
this,
don't go good together.
But this is something that
but people still
we were
need to
sort of
walk.
taking
It's gonna be-
what we knew about the projects that are existing, and that one, yeah. If the section actually will include sidewalks, we can add that
It
line.
is substantial right of way. I believe it's 440 right of way if memory serves, I'm sure. So
Okay,
if that's the plan, we can definitely incorporate that.
okay.
Last thing is just our next step. So we've got the draft out. We're collecting comments by the end of the week. We come to commission report for a briefing next week and city council about mid-March. And then we intend to publish the final report early March. And that may actually push out to mid-March as well.
And what does that do?
It completes the work on what would be the implementation, what should be the implementation for facilities out in this area. That then has to get incorporated into the overall sort of regional perspective. Do we actually do this project or that project? Are we all on board as partners with the first 5 years of this implementation plan? I mean, if we are, then we have to start defining these projects, setting aside money to get into design. So there are projects like, for example, Arquero Boulevard, which a lot of the residents in the area were in favor of. That project needs to be developed further and it needs to get started. So the next step in the process is to decide which of these projects are we actually gonna partner as a community to get built and then actually start to find that funding.
And the way you have them listed is by way of priority as well? In other words, by
I wouldn't-
sequence of construction?
I wouldn't say that when you see Arquero at the top, that doesn't necessarily mean it's most important. It does happen to have an earlier schedule than some of the other ones. But yeah, these aren't exactly in order. It's just short, mid, and long term.
Well, I mean, really, that's what we need to see here, no? I mean, this is just I don't want to say Christmas list, but it's a projection of future growth and a projection of what you see as being, taking place over the next, how many years did you say it was?
Yes,
How many years?
20 years.
20, over the next 20 years. But where are the priority projects to say, you know, we're not going anywhere unless you do A, B, and C?
Actually, I think what we're trying to say is you need to do all of them.
We understand that, but you can't do all of them.
Have all- Yeah, we don't have enough.
Understand that, Commissioner.
But I'm saying, some are gonna be more important as the cog to jumpstart the next one.
Yes.
You're not gonna do, when you go back to the map, something on the outer side until you do the connector on the inside, right?
Yeah,
So yes, this actually does have priority in that sense, and actually in the handout that we provided, there is a page that shows what the first 5 years are. Each year, what stage of the project development is each project in. So it's not just those 5 projects at the top of the list that's on the slide, it's actually working on several of these projects over time and showing what phase they should be in by which year.
Can you go back to the map? I know you did focus mainly on the northern part, but I know I've been harping about, no, the map, yeah. Some sort of connector between 59 and 359. I know we've talked about maybe the portion of the outer loop, because again, if there is an accident on 359, they have to, you know, depending where it is, they have to divert traffic all the way back to Aguilares to come around through 59. And so we need that, a north-south connector somewhere on 59, and it's gotta be sooner than later, because a lot of that is Colonia property still. But as the city gets in there and annexes and develops, it makes it much more difficult to put in some sort of boulevard or, you know, multi-laned connector.
absolutely, Commissioner, and TxDOT's been doing a lot of good work on the outer loop. I believe, Ito here may actually speak a little bit to that, or can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, just a quick update. So that section, Humberto Gonzalez, TPD Director for TxDOT, for the record, that section of the outer loop from 359 to US 59, we are putting in our UTP 2021 call, so it will be competing for funding. We do see it as a priority as well. So if we're fortunate enough to get funding, we can proceed. But in the current state, we're doing a feasibility study, and that report should be finalized by early this spring. But our intent, we are putting it on the list to compete for construction funding.
2021, which will be September of this year.
That is when the award normally comes out, about in August is when the awarded projects come out.
But I'm saying, but if you're putting in 2021, that's actually eligible for September of this year.
The awards for this year, yeah, September 2021.
And you have that project already developed?
That project right now is in the feasibility state, so we did a feasibility study. So
I
we'll be
remember
proceeding to
you had a
submit it.
presentation there, and we had like 2 or 3 different potential right-of-ways.
Correct, yeah, so the report that's gonna be finalized in spring will determine a preferred alignment for that outer loop portion.
Very good, appreciate it.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, the key, I think, is priority, you know, try to prioritize the projects like Commissioner Gill was saying. Or else, we understand that these, all these projects need to get done, but there's got to be some sort of priority list.
Page 6 of the handout actually talks about what Jason was discussing, what could happen over the next 5 years on how all these projects are intertwined as far as short-term, mid-term, long-term, of what stage of development actually could get going immediately and how they're tied together. And answer Commissioner Galo's question, what is the real priority? Under page 6 and one of the solutions, we talk more about that. But I guess overall, like to kind of wrap up, we provided a draft implementation plan to members of this committee. Any comments you have, please provide it to us. And we can incorporate your comments in your intake as part of the final implementation study. What we're also looking to do after this presentation, we will be presenting next Monday to Commissioner's Court. It will be the same presentation. And we will also be looking for more information from other members of the Commissioner's Court. We're also looking to schedule a mayor presentation in front of council. Hopefully, looks like we're looking at the
Mid-March,
it won't be the first. It'll be the second.
the 16th, I
The
think.
16th of March. That will be looking at the presentation.
Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
That's
sir.
great.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna ask,
No?
No, I got it, thank you.
maybe TxDOT could give us, and I don't know if there's a current map out there that shows each stage of where everything's at. I mean, the outer loop's now 100% funded, right? But we have projects, certain aspects of it at different stages, right?
The outer loop is not funded, has zero construction dollars.
Oh, I-69, you mean the.
I mean, sorry, the Loop 20,
Correct, yes, the future I-69 is fully funded, correct.
okay. But I mean, we still having, so if we could get a map that shows, you know, okay, this is completed, you know, yellow means, you know, funded and ready for construction. We're still, in other parts are waiting for, we still have to do acquisition of right-of-way in certain areas.
Yeah, the committee, policy committee would like, we could put it on the agenda for next meeting, and we can present you a status of where we're at in each phase of the development for all those projects.
For every project we got out there, and then maybe we can implement what they've added, put those two maps together.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Going back to the agenda. Yeah, it
Can we
doesn't-
get,
yeah, it doesn't
Mr.
come
Van
up on the
Steenberg's
screen.
here with the chart, so might as well.
Yeah, we can bring up that item. You don't have the agenda on the screen, there's
You
whatever.
wanna bring up which one, sir?
Yeah, chart, do you have the,
Is it on there?
yeah, okay.
This would be motion to bring up item F1.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Let's see, do we have a quorum?
Oh,
We need one more.
no, oh, one short for,
Yeah, he's still here, yeah. I guess we need to wait. So F1,
Say aye.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those, any opposed, none heard, motion carries. Yes, this item is now before us, go ahead. Mr. Steenberg, Van Steenberg, how are you?
Just fine, Mayor. For the record, Nicholas Van Steenberg with HR Truss and Vedley Corp. too.
Yes, welcome. Yes, go ahead, please. I know there was an issue last.
That's
go around.
correct. We've been working, I didn't receive my first email until last week, and we are still working with the other landholder. We do not have a signed agreement at this time, but we are still working on that.
Okay. So do you anticipate maybe by next month?
I'm hoping, yes.
Yeah.
Is the process,
Go ahead, yes,
Is
sir.
the process moving along correctly, the way you would hope?
Well, actually, sir, nothing happened from the last MPO until Thursday of last week. At our, repeated asking of, where are we? Let's go, let's sign this. We've had a meeting we've had an agreement, a verbal agreement, since back in October-ish. So we've just been waiting to ink it. I know that there's been a delay because there were multiple owners of the land in a family arrangement, and now it is under one ownership. And so Webb will convert to, I think it's Webb Commercial now, and I believe the new name is Itara
it doesn't matter.
Investments. or
Doesn't matter.
something. But yeah, but now one person controls it.
Is there anything we can do as a body here to move this thing along?
Waterboarding comes to mind. Bring the water.
We're not into.
Takers. But no, I'm,
Okay. Yeah, we're taking
pushing
more
on a string,
more civil approach to things.
yeah, I'm,
Getting arrested?
well,
No, that's fine.
Ultimately, we can't stress how important this is for us. Obviously, this has everything to do with mobility in that area, and it's one of the integral pieces that we need in order to have proper mobility and to continue to grow as a port. So
Yes, sir.
whatever you have to do to make this happen, I encourage you to get it done, because we have a commitment, you have a commitment, and we have a commitment to the citizens of Laredo and Webb County to make sure that truck traffic is routed in a way that's meaningful and that can help us grow as a community. So whatever it takes, sir.
understood,
Yeah.
understood.
Currently, it's not slowing things down, is it, as far as
No.
planning and all of that? Okay, good. Okay,
And all else, I can tell you, because I've worked with the archaeologists, they are out there right now, boots on the ground, on both Ruthinger and Hachar, doing shovel tests, et cetera. And that is the last phase of the environmental assessment. So we are looking at just a matter of weeks away from 100% submittal to TxDOT. We also received word via email just before I came here. We've been waiting for TxDOT to give their comments on the 90% submission, which was back in early January. And we have been told that we're gonna get those next week, early next week. So we're very close to 100% submittal of all the required documents for an environmental assessment. And then that would begin the TxDOT process for hopefully receiving a FONSI within, well, as Mr. Salazar said last time, under a year, I believe. So hopefully calendar year 2020, we get that.
okay, well, thank you for your report.
Okay.
So unless we have anything else, and I don't.
I was just gonna ask, who can answer? Let's just say, what Mr. Van Steenberg says is true, within the month, we have the environmental done. How long before you could actually break ground? Technically, I mean, normally, not holding anybody's feet to the fire.
So I guess since I'm the one up here on TxDOT, but
why
I'm
I'm
gonna.
looking your way.
Yeah, you're looking my way, but I'm gonna go ahead and encourage to it. I'm on it from the city wants update. So the next step would be, I believe this project is going to be, go out for PS&E through the city of Laredo. So that is the next step that we need to occur. So I'll let Mr. Chavez talk to you about that.
And I would recommend in that same vein that we overlap. Oh, we can already start the process from the city to begin to let for PS&E. So,
Yeah, 'cause I thought we already had a lot of drawings.
Okay, yeah, maybe Mr. Chavez can address that.
A number of mayor and members of the committee, Ramon Chavez, city engineer. Basically, we are ready to go out for the PS&E. We already have a draft RFQ in place. We were just waiting for some of these details to be ironed out, but we're ready to go on that. As far as design is concerned, I could probably estimate, and anyone from Texas can look at this too, but maybe 12 months, 9 to 12 months for design and then construction after that.
But we're still years away.
I'm gonna say yes, unless we have any other schedule.
It's a minimum
And
2
recall.
years.
Usually.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on to item 4A, the approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 21st, 2020.
Move to approve, there's no changes?
Yeah, it's been seconded as heard. Discussion on heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is B, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2020-01, adopting the proposed amendments of the MPO bylaws and operation procedures. Yes, sir,
Yes,
Mr.
just as a reminder, the three things that we're changing to the bylaws. One, a quorum now only requires 4. So one of y'all can leave after this. Also, that the name change from the Laredo Urban Transportation Study to Laredo and Webb County.
Area?
Webb County area.
That's it, Laredo Webb County Area, MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization. And then the third would be, we were directed to put it as a vacancy, that position. What we did was to put it, I took a little jump here, but put it at member at large. If we put it at vacant, then we'd have to come back and go through this whole process again, noticing if you identified somebody you wanted to put on the board. Putting it as a member at large allows this committee to vote to put somebody in together, and that way we don't have to change it in the future.
That makes sense.
If we do want to change in the future because you say, hey, actually, we'd just rather have it be this organization, then we can change it, which is what we would have had to do anyway if we put in the vacant, which was what we were directed, so.
Move to approve the, oh, do we have to have a public hearing? I mean, it's a public hearing,
It has been
open
an
a
open
public
public hearing over this.
so I need to close the public hearing and move to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, if it's a public hearing, we need to invite people to speak. Yes, sir. Did we open the public hearing?
Yes, it was open
It's
previously,
already,
no?
it's open.
So
Okay.
it's time to.
It's a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against this matter, for or against this item?
Move to close the public hearing and adopt the 3 resolution changes.
My question is, how many votes
Second.
would it be required for action? Is it 4 out of 4?
Just 4. Now, a quorum is only,
4, but those
No,
4
you only need
for
four.
action?
Majority of the
and
people
and a
present.
majority of the people
Oh,
present.
okay, so 3 out of the 4, if we
3 out of
only
4.
have 4. Okay, sounds good. Yes, we have a motion, a second, a discussion, none heard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Motion carries unanimously.
See you later.
Thank you.
I just have a question regarding the
Well, we got you
at-large.
there,
Do
yeah.
we need to put it on the agenda for next time to select the at-large member? or
Whenever,
what are we gonna
whenever you want to have it done.
Yeah, if you have an idea, that would be, you could put it on the agenda, then we could bring it up to discuss amongst the policy committee members if you agree with that and want to move forward with appointing somebody.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is item C, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2020-03, adopting and supporting the Texas Department of Transportation's 2020 targets for the 5 federal safety performance measures. Mr. Gonzalez, or, and again, it's a public hearing, I guess we need to open it up.
Yeah, if you could, open up the public hearing, invite anybody to speak if they so choose.
Is there a motion?
A motion to open up the public testimony and approve resolution.
And seconded by Dr. Martinez. Discussion? Not heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries. It's a public hearing. This is the public hearing portion of it. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against? For or against? Could you explain this a little more?
Surely, the TxDOT, in their efforts to convert all of us to performance-based planning, they have developed these safety targets that all of our projects are supposed to be, well, once we adopt them, supporting. And the safety targets are the ones that you see before you. We've done this in 2019, 2018, and this will be a regular feature of our planning process as we move ever forward towards performance-based, data-driven planning. And the targets themselves include number of fatalities, the rate of fatalities, number of serious injuries, the serious injury rate, and the total number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. And so that's what we're supposed to be monitoring, our projects and how we're trying to meet these targets in our region.
Okay. Do we actually identify those projects?
These targets feed into our project selection process
Okay.
and our travel demand model process, and in the way that we select projects to try to
Oh, okay.
support
It's
meeting
criteria.
these targets.
Okay, I understand. Okay, any others? Is there a motion to close?
Quick, how often do we update this policy? Is it
Every year.
every year?
Every year, these targets are developed, so you'll see them again next January, new targets.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see them again, we'll have road and bridge and pavement targets also.
And how often will we be getting these reports?
I'm sorry?
How often do we get these reports?
The report's based on how we're doing towards, it's usually, when we're developing the MTP, our long-range plan, you'll see, how we're doing. There's a reporting mechanism in there.
I'd like to see how we're doing on all these things. I don't know, quarterly or every 6 months or so?
We're not quite there yet. This is
Okay.
brand new.
Okay.
This is something that's turning the boat to get to performance-based planning. So we're still implementing the processes and procedures in order to get us all the way there so that we are monitoring these things, like you said, even on a quarterly basis. But right now, I think they haven't even, Federal Highways hasn't even given us a time frame. So they're suggesting 5 years. So when we
Okay.
develop our long-range plan, so.
Motion to close and introduce.
There's already a motion.
Oh, there was.
The judge made the motion to open it and.
To open, no?
To open and adopt.
Oh, and
Oh,
adopt.
okay, adopt. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is, excuse me, C, receive public testimony and approve a resolution number MPO 2020, no, that's the
That
one
was
we
this
read.
item.
Yeah, so it's D. Motion to authorize the amendment of the approval of the approved tri-party memorandum of understanding, MOU between the Laredo Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Texas Department of Transportation, and El Metro, the Laredo Public Transportation Operator, as required by 23 CFR 450-31-4H, in order to attach Appendix A, safety performance measures and targets, and Appendix B, pavement and bridge performance measures and targets per Federal Highway Administration's recommendation.
Before I move a motion, is there anything that we need to address?
Just the second page, there's some additional to be.
Yeah, and resultant from the recent mock certification review to include currently adopted PM, is it 1 PM, 2 PM, 3 performance measures and targets meant to assure that the agreement is a living document to be updated periodically with the newly established performance measures and targets as the policy committee adopts them. Yes, Mr. Steinman, could you explain this a little further?
Yes, tied to the last, moving towards performance-based measures, the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, has some requirements that local organizations, local governments have an understanding with the state and how we operate. And so this is something that we're updating. It's a tripartite agreement that we've had before, and we're just
So
doing
moved.
that again.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, discussion. None heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, is E, a discussion possible action on truck parking areas, truck parks, and any matters, incidental there too. Yes, we had a gentleman that came and presented, some suggested ideas, and I think they're very, very appropriate. So, do we have any thoughts or ideas further, I guess, from the community, or what plans do we have as an MPO to address this? I know the city is taking that up as well. We call upon.
There
Go
are
ahead.
several places where our plans and studies address this issue of where trucks are staging and how that can sometimes create a hazard. I know the RMA, in their study, they gave a greater in-depth look at the study to the technical committee where that kind of thing should occur. And part of their study looked at where we need to make sure on these right-of-way that we're accounting for the fact that trucks will be staging. So we don't just build the typical right-of-way, but we extend that so, because we know we're gonna have trucks parking on the side, we don't want that to create a visibility issue or a safety issue. That's one place. I know as well, TxDOT, Tito, you had mentioned there was something the state, the TxDOT, the region had been working on, looking at truck parking, the same kind of issue, making sure that we're accounting for where trucks are going to stage. I don't know if you want to speak to that from TxDOT's.
And if I may too, I know the doctor and I have been visiting, especially that Uniroyal, area where there's massive congestion, trucks parked on the sides, and I think that area, has been asking for help, Doctor, and of course you're well aware of that. And I was hoping maybe, and I think you and I discussed that, maybe the next go around we can put an agenda item so we can invite those people.
Yes, Mayor, that's going to be on the agenda for the city council for the next meeting. Several ideas that obviously we've been working on is, can we make that a one-way in, one-way out to have a better flow of traffic? We're several years away from having an actual solution. We did have a flyover that was going to be, I think, that was proposed and then got shifted to further north, and that kind of pushed our calendar back a little bit. And so we have to come up with some solutions sooner, and so we're going to look at that at the next council meeting. And I think Mr. Chavez we've been looking also, right, Mr. Chavez, at several solutions to have a county road to be able to access, to move it out. Do you have that, sir, that county road that we had looked at as well?
And I would ask also that maybe at some point the MPO can look at that, because if it involves the county, we need county input as well. But
Ramon
Mr.
Chavez, for the record, again, no, I don't have that information with me on hand, but I know we were trying to look at several options, even crossing the railroad and other things.
Can we put it maybe for the MPO agenda and also city council, because I think we need
Definitely.
plenty of information from both sides.
Yes, Mayor.
We'll gather all the
And we
information
did
together.
talk to the railroad about potentially opening up doctors again to allow us to cross, but they weren't interested at this time. They didn't want to have to keep that area up as well. And so we've been hitting a lot of roadblocks, but we're still working on it, Mayor, and so we'll bring that up.
Is this what I called you about? I'm sorry. Is this the situation on Uniroyal that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Right.
But they're not just dealing with truck parking, they're dealing with people
Everything.
actually putting up shop along the
Yeah,
roads.
so we have a combination of two things. They're setting up shop to actually to do business.
Right.
And then on top of that, trucks are staging by parking.
Yes.
And so it's creating a nightmare in that whole area.
Yeah.
Again, we have had
Good.
policing efforts in that area to try to stop or
Appreciate that.
minimize those people that were fixing tires and doing all that.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, it's still kind of an area that's driven by the truck market, and so you still have a lot of trucks parking on the side of the road, which leads to congestion. And then when you bring a railroad that comes across, you're talking about 30, 40 minutes that it slows things down, and then it really backs things up. And that happens during peak hours more than throughout the whole day. During peak hours, it's very bad. And so that's why we were thinking of potentially doing a one-way in, one-way out, where we might be able to, with that one flyover, actually make it more feasible for trucks to flow in and out. But there's no easy solution. I think it's going to be a long-term solution. Once Hachar Ruthinger Road is actually set up, we'll have an attachment on the other side that will attach to I-35, and that flyover will alleviate a lot of traffic. But until that point, we need to come up with a more short-term solution, and that's what we're working on. And yes, Mayor, we'll put it on both agendas.
Yeah, and of course, we went about the industry because, we had a meeting and there was a lot of people there with concerns, yeah, so
Awesome.
anyway.
Great, appreciate y'all. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of phone calls on this.
So back to this item, which is, really the same item. So you were saying, Mr. Sneidman, so I guess we're addressing it at city council, and maybe next time we can also address, what the gentleman had suggested last time was maybe what areas can we use, either private or public, to designate as staging areas, parking areas, and are we looking toward that end? Maybe the private industry has some ideas also that they could come up, you in particular, and kind of pinpoint maybe certain areas and develop plans along those lines, because obviously the trucks are bread and butter and they're going to continue for years and years, so we need to plan accordingly. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think the short term, the solutions are best looked at through the council and with those jurisdictions that deal with the road,
Okay.
in this case, the city. Longer term, it is a component of the plans that we're doing. We are very aware of the load, both the advantage of having this truck traffic, but also the challenges. So with the current plans, I know with the bridge master plan, as was said, a traffic study is going to be a component of that, looking at the truck traffic. And we also want to look at, maybe not this year, but the following year, a freight study, looking, I don't know to what extent it'll be good that the bridge master plan is going first, because we can take that and build on it and see how much more in depth we need to go as far as scope to really look at how is truck traffic circulating around the city, where are our most difficult spots, what can we do to decrease the load in those areas. So yes, it's definitely on our radar.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this item? And if not, I'm moving on. Thank you. F, a discussion with possible action. We heard that already. Yeah.
Reports and presentations.
Verde Corp, yeah. So discussion with possible action on the Ruthinger status on the report by Verde Corp.
We had that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
This is 5A, Mayor, update on
Oh,
text
5A, okay.
on the redesignation of IH-35.
Yes,
Victoria Street, also known as 4 blocks area, including the state's position and said redesignation and any matters incident there too.
oh, yeah, this is your, go ahead, please.
This was my item, but I think we had already had some discussions on this preliminary, sir. Is there anything that we had come up with here?
Last meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Salazar said that work with you internally,
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, so just for the record, just give an update, Ito Gonzalez, TechStop. So we have been working internally, the open request was filed for all the information that'll be getting sent over today to the city. We have been looking through our documents, our transfer property documents that we had to make sure logistically what would have to be done. I think David's, Mr. Salazar, our district engineers, I guess response at the last MPO meeting was at this time, we did not see the reclassification at this time, but if we had further discussions to look at operationally what the impact would be to this I-35 corridor once the said proposed development would come in play, we could have a little bit better understanding how, what the impact would be to our corridor. But we are providing the information, we are coordinating with you all. to get you the data you need to make that determination.
Yeah, I saw the developers last week, and they were visiting with the council member Bali, and I think there's movement, there's more progress toward that end. So,
We
so
just want to
hopefully-
keep that fresh on everybody's mind, that in case this development happens, we are going to have to look at the impact of the traffic running through there. Obviously, the port is the most important thing, but we also want to be cognizant of utilizing the space and making sure that people can cross from one side of downtown to the other side, which is, I think, the Azteca neighborhood. And so I know some people that ride their bikes right across there to go home, or used to, now they go to a different area. But,
You might want to move that.
Okay,
thank you.
okay then. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
If, Mr. Chairman, if being that B and C are by Councilman Algilt that's not here, I suggest that, I move that we move them
For the next
to
meeting?
table for the
Yeah,
next one.
give us a motion. Yeah, Mr. Steinman, is that okay? Because sometimes I know he.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're keeping him abreast of where we're at on the active transportation plan, so it might, if you're feeling good with the time of this meeting, it would probably be helpful to share that, because he kind of knows where we're at already. Maybe he just wanted everybody as well to see where we're at on the active transportation plan, but we can wait till next time as well.
Well, that's fine.
Nothing time sensitive.
I'm good with my motion.
Okay, there's a motion
Still
and a
has- if it still
second.
stands.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Yeah, motion carries, no discussion. Yes, thank you. So B and C. D, a textile project, updates?
Hello, Jesus Herrera,
How are you, sir? Welcome.
area engineer for the Texas Laredo. I'm just gonna go pretty quick on some of the projects that we have ongoing. The I-35, US 59, we just completed a few weeks ago. We had the ribbon cutting ceremony. We're working on punch list items, and hopefully we can conclude that in the next few weeks to have it completed 100%. We're also working on a punch list on the 359 overlay that goes from Laredo city limits all the way to the county line. We just completed that a few months ago, and we're working on some of the items on the rails and side slopes. We also completed recently an overlay on some of the streets, like Saunders on 255 and some of the areas, also working on punch list items. On US 83 North, from the checkpoint to the county line, we started a few months ago a rehabilitation project that's gonna take all the way to December of 2022 to complete, but we're moving forward on that project.
Real quick, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The checkpoint, so we're not doing anything from 83, from Highway 35?
Yes, that's the second phase that we're about to start probably in the next month or so. We're gonna have two projects, one from I-35 to a mile and a half, probably 2 miles south of the checkpoint, and then from that point all the way to the county line. So we're gonna have two projects
You have
running
no
at the same
idea
time.
how long these are gonna take?
These are projects that are gonna take probably to 2022, late 2022, early 2023. Yeah, it's a long construction project. We're doing extra payment to keep the two lanes all the time, well, most of the time. Sometimes we have to shut down one lane to move barriers back and forth. But we try to minimize the impact to the traveling public.
Very good.
Okay, we're doing third lanes, is that it?
We're doing rehab, and we have some of the passing lanes that we have. We're upgrading those as well, and we're adding a few more additional passing lanes on that corridor.
Okay.
But you will, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But you will be, I'd like to call it completely redoing from 35 to Camino Colombia 255? Because that really
Yes, sir.
needs to be redone completely.
Yes, that will be part of the project. That is correct. Yes, and eventually later, there's going to be I guess, another project there. But for now, yes, it's going to be an upgrade pretty much from I-35 all the way to the county line.
And all of that has been funded, of course, it's part of the funding that you got last year?
Yes, it's already led, and it's awarded and everything. Anderson Colombia is doing the job for us.
Let me ask, is there any thought of connecting the frontage road there in front of the checkpoint? Like especially if you're reconstructing the main lanes?
On US 83,
No, on 35 north?
at north. We
A
put
mile
the-
marker 30. You're referring to a mile marker 30, the checkpoint?
Oh, just before the checkpoint? you can't get from the frontage road to the checkpoint lanes. So I'm saying if you're gonna be doing work there, you might wanna divert traffic to that frontage road, but then you're gonna need to put the connecting, come back into the,
Okay, this is US 83, the one.
I know, but you were just talking about 35, right?
Yeah, that's, so currently we have a schematic that we're developing on I-35 in that area. I don't believe that is part of the work in that area, but that's something that we
You're
can
not gonna be
look at.
reconstructing in front of the checkpoint.
The checkpoint, so the plans that we have is to widen, the safe lane initiative that we have to widen 35 to 6 lanes. We currently have it under development from mile marker 18 all the way to mile marker 30, which is just before the checkpoint. That's the
But
last
I'm
project
saying,
we
while
currently.
you're doing that, you know, you might wanna think about using the frontage road as a relief valve and be able to push some traffic over, but then you need a bit way to get them back to the main lanes. Because especially still, there's some days where the trucks back up and they take up both lanes and the cars can't get in to go to the car lanes.
Basically, what's happening is that you're getting them on literally off the highway, off the shoulder, left shoulder, and they're driving along the grass.
Also to that corner, I-35 and Loop 20, well, it's I-69 now. There's some development there, and apparently you all haven't committed, TxDOT hadn't committed to an access lane. And there's an issue there between the developers, wanting to, to get paid for the land and or develop, but there's no funding. Is that something that you all can put in writing so we can?
Which one is that?
So we'll be discussing that, and Kirby can speak to this at the P&Z meeting this Thursday, but I believe you're talking about the Angler Crossing subdivision.
Right.
But we've been in discussion
that's-
with the developer. We actually have a meeting set with them at 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday
Oh, okay,
to
good.
discuss, and then the follow-up P&Z meeting is on Thursday at noon.
Yeah, but-
Where is this?
So this is south of San Isidro, where San Isidro touches I-35, where the new underpass is going to be with the new grade separation. There's a development of about 400 or 500 homes in that area that's occurring right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, both.
Yeah, and so right by Divine Mercy Church, right across the street from that. And so there's gonna be some right-of-way that needs to be gained by TxDOT in order to create this project. And the developer, though, is continuing to move to try to develop that area. And so we've been actively talking to them, and they've been very engaged with conversations of trying to let them understand what the big picture is. But unfortunately, the developer is moving very quickly, as it's their purview to do, and it's their development. But TxDOT also is trying to tell them, hey, we're doing this as well. And so we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. Can't stop development, but at the same time, we understand that this is part of a master plan. And so hopefully when they get together, they can come up with a solution.
Okay, thank you, because it ultimately costs the taxpayer, 2, 3, 4 times more. And of course, we want to put every dollar into construction and not necessarily right away, yeah. Right, thank you.
The last project that I have here is the FF 3238. We're rehabbing that section of road between 255 and Mines Road. That's also 10% complete. That'll be completed more or less September 2022.
May I ask you a question on that? On
Yes,
that
sir.
bridge that y'all are building, what is it, a 2-lane bridge, or, because it looks narrow? And y'all, I was on FM 338,
3338?
3338, there's a bridge that y'all already basically constructed. And to me, that bridge, if y'all are expanding the roadway there, it looks very narrow. I was curious, are y'all going from 2 to 1, or what are y'all doing there?
Right now, the roadway that we're building is gonna be 2-lane. It's gonna have some shoulders, but right now in this phase, it's a 2-lane, 2-way roadway.
Okay.
But is it only half of the section that's
But
built
can
so far?
those-
It's phase
yes.
construction, right? So
Yes, we're building half of the road, and then the other half probably you have seen just one of the sections.
Oh, so you're gonna have,
There's gonna be alternate.
so it's gonna be that substantial of a project?
Oh, yes. This is a big project. It's a $23 million project.
Yeah, it's the whole road all over.
The $23 million,
I didn't
23
realize
million.
y'all were doing that much, okay, all right, okay, that'll work.
Mayor, going back to the right-of-way that the city can actually purchase the right-of-way. There's no guarantee by TxDOT that they will take it off your hands once you develop it, but if it's that crucial, sometimes it behooves you all to act to, save the taxpayers that money, and like I said, then TxDOT will make the determination whether they need it or not. They won't guarantee that they will purchase it, but you can, and like I say, act. Now, that's what I tried to get the city to do back when we did, what's it, Cuatro Vientos and on the Argindigi property, and, you know, we ended up paying like 10 times what it was originally valued for once they built their store there.
What is the thought? Yeah.
It is a thought.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion to adjourn, is there a second? Discussion, none heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, before you run away,
Meeting is concluded, and it's at 2:45.
No, but they wanted to,